We heard from Dr. Vitalis. She had a laundry list of horrible injuries, that her muscles are torn from her bones, that her insides are lacerated. So yes, we had an incident that resulted in death. That's check 2. Then we got through that Mr. Richardson didn't say at the scene. He says he didn't say at the scene. Right? No. I didn't say. No, I didn't call. Didn't give any kind of help. Didn't do anything to help Miss Woods as she lay there experiencing her own personal horrifying forever. I want to talk to you about some of the questions that Mr. Barr asked during his examination of this process. I don't want you to take anything that I say as a personal slight against Mr. Barr. He and I are colleagues, we're friends, we've worked together for a considerable amount of time. So this is not a personal attack. What I'm doing is just pointing out what his role is in this process, what he's here to do. He's here to advocate for Mr. Richardson. He's trying to walk Mr. Richardson out the front door of this courtroom. So let's unpack some of the questions he asked, some of the things that he thought were important in the case. First off, he asked a whole bunch of questions about how dangerous this stretch of 52 is. Well, in the statute you just heard, did you hear anything about, well, if the road's dangerous, this don't count? No, because it's not relevant. Mr. Barr asked a whole bunch of questions about who was at fault in the accident. We're not hiding the fact Ms. Rhodes is in the woods. Jaywalking's illegal. Just because she's jaywalking don't mean he can run her over and leave her there to die immediately. That's preposterous. That's what his question suggested. He's trying to distract you from the true facts in this case. Mr. Barr asked a bunch of questions about the victim's toxicology report. What this was an attempt to smear the victim, to sully her name, to make you think less of her, to make her be less dead. That was what those questions were engineered to do. But did the statute say, well, none of this counts if she's got alcohol or drugs in her system? No, don't say that. It's not relevant to what the state has to prove. He's charged with leaving the scene of the accident. He's not charged with being at fault in the accident. The trooper told him that when he confessed. Did he leave the scene? Yes. That's the end of it. I want to go deeper. He says he didn't see it. Let's unpack that. Let's process this. We all got common sense. That's why we picked you guys, because you guys got common sense. Driving down the road. He told us he had his bright lights on. He told us that he didn't see it. It said, where's all the damage to the vehicle? The front driver's side and the front driver's side mirror. Where would that put her when he struck her? Directly in front of him. How in the world could he not see her? She broke off the mirror as she tumbled off the hood of his vehicle, ladies and gentlemen. You can reach out and adjust your meter. You can reel the window down and do it in old cars. Means if his window had been open, he could have reached out and touched the woman he'd just run over. But he wants you to believe he didn't see it. Does that make any sense? No. He also told us he drove home a different way. Didn't go back by the accident, did he? Why would he not drive back the same way? Because he knew the cops were out there. They were looking at her laying in the road. They found her. He didn't want them to see a vehicle with damage to the front of it on the headlights. That's why he didn't go back the same way. He says, first off, he said, tells his girlfriend that night what happened. And then he was going to turn himself in, but then he kind of changed his stand on the story. I hope you caught that. That it was because he wanted to come to court, and that was his inspiration. Does that make sense? In the middle of the night, you've just gone through this bump to bump on that dark road. Does that make sense that that's, if you didn't know you hit somebody, that would be what the truth is? No. The truth is he knew he'd hit a person, and he told his girlfriend. That's what's simple. That's what makes sense. At the end of the interview, he's worried about other people getting charged. You heard him say, is any trouble can come to anybody else? And no, we didn't charge anybody else. But why in the world would he be worried about other people getting charged if he just hit a dog or a deer? Does that make any sense? No! It's him trying to change his story on the stand. He's hooked. They already interviewed him. They already got him on the record. I want to play for you a short portion of his interview that points out stuff he said that is inconsistent. He said that he saw something dark in the road in his interview. I want you to listen to this, just one point. Thank you, close. This is State's Exhibit 6. Why would he be scared if he just hit a deer? Why would he be scared if he just hit a dog? That don't make any sense. He knew he hit her. He told the officers he hit her. What does he say in the interview? I don't know where she came from. You don't say I don't know where she came from if you just hit a deer. You don't say I don't know where she came from if you just hit a dog. Ladies and gentlemen, what do we have? Mr. Barr pointed out through a bunch of his questions he had witnessed how dangerous Highway 52 is. He tries to paint it as this some horrifying death trap where pedestrians get run down every day. What do we hear from the defendant? He's lived here 53 years in the same community. He'd know what a death trap Highway 52 is. He's driving down the dark road. He's got his headlights on. Both headlights are working. The high beams. He hits something, ba-boom, ba-boom. Turns around. He sees something in the road. That big, open median without bushes, no ditch, no grass. He doesn't stop. He doesn't help. He didn't know she was there because he didn't want to know. He didn't report it to the police. They had to come find him months later. He said in the beginning, if he had had his way, Miss Richardson would still be there rotting in that roadway. She'd be there forever. Forever's a long time.
Hey, please, court. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Again, going back to my comments yesterday, I want to thank you each for answering the call for service. As I said before, jury duty outside of military service is one of the most important things you can do for your community, and I sincerely thank you for answering the call. Now, over the past 2 days, you've heard testimony from witnesses, you've seen evidence, and now we're at the end of the case, where Mr. Anderson and myself, we get up before you, and we give you our closing arguments. Arguments designed as one last opportunity to advocate our points. Now, when I first got in front of you yesterday during opening statements, I told you that not everything is black and white. Sometimes there's shades of gray. Sometimes there's context. Context matters. Context helps to explain things. Not everything as we want to be in life is as simple, and not everything is as easy. Sometimes you have to look at the entire situation. Now, Mr. Anderson is right. I talked a lot about Highway 52. I talked about the danger of Highway 52. In fact, when I questioned Trooper Lovett, I went through several accidents over the course of time that happened right out there on that highway. And Mr. Anderson said none of those things are relevant. Here's why they're relevant. When you know something is dangerous, you kind of change the way you do things. When I'm driving on Highway 52, I'm not expecting to see people in the roadway. But now when I'm driving on Sandy Bay Road, I may expect to see children. I may expect to see families. I'm expecting that because that is the road I'm traveling on. Why is that relevant? Because as Mr. Richardson has said in his interview, as he said when he testified, he did not see anyone in the road. We go back to October 3rd, 2018. It was a Wednesday. He was going to pick up his girlfriend from work. He's traveling down that road, and he's going to Sykes. It's about 12 o'clock at night. Now, the one thing I did tell you in the beginning of this trial is that each of you had the requisite experience to serve on this jury. Each of you are more than qualified to serve on this jury because each of you bring in to this room your own common sense, your knowledge, your personal experiences, the things you've been through in life. You bring all that with you. You don't leave that at the door, it comes in. So as part of you bringing that into this courtroom, you know exactly what I mean when I say Highway 52 is dangerous. You know exactly what I mean when I say it is dark on that stretch of road. And you know exactly what I mean and what Mr. Richardson means when he said, I did not see anybody. Now, the state played the video. A video from True Love's Automotive Center. They said that video or that place is about a quarter mile. Now, in that video, when they had the screen turned towards you, I asked Trooper Luther, I said, it looks awfully dark out there. It looked very dark. And if someone travels that stretch of road, it is dark on 52 on that stretch. It is not beyond the possibility or the probability that one could be driving on that road, minding their own business, and all of a sudden something knocks off your rearview mirror. Something collides with the side of your car. That is not beyond the realm of possibility. I asked Trooper Lovett and I asked Trooper Luther, I said, is there usually debris out on that highway? They both said yes. There's a jury, I don't have to tell you that. If you travel that stretch of road, you've seen things laying out on the road all the time. One of you might have run over something in the road. When Mr. Richardson was on his way to Sykes, he didn't see you. He was driving on, and then bam, something collided with his side mirror. Now, state wants you to listen to everything Mr. Richardson said, everything he said, but let's just discount everything that their own witnesses said. Let's start with Trooper Luther. You heard during the interview, he said to Mr. Richardson, maybe you didn't know what you hit. That's what he said. Now, we've been through a lot of trouble. This is what the state did. All of their witnesses, or most of their witnesses, they gave you their bio, their professional bio. They said, this person went to school for this thing, they were in school for this, they're certified in that. So I have to take Trooper Luther at his word as an experienced lawman, as a highway patrol officer, that when he interviews Mr. Richardson and he tells him, hey, I know all the answers, maybe you didn't know what you hit. Well, we can't just toss that out the window and act like he didn't say it. He said that in his capacity as a highway patrol officer. He said, maybe you didn't know what you hit. Why would he say that? If it was not probable or possible. If it was just crazy, ludicrous talk, why would he say that? Because that stretch of highway is dark, it's dangerous, you're not looking for people to be in the roadway, and it's possible that if you're traveling, you might not have seen anything. You might not have known exactly what happened to your car. Trooper Luther said, maybe you didn't know what you hit. That's what he said. Now, we played the interview, or the state played the interview for Mr. Richardson. And I'm not going to parcel things out. I'm not going to start and stop and try to say, okay, well, he said this, but maybe you heard what the man said, you heard what he didn't say. He said, I did not see her. I didn't know what I hit. He said that. He said that. He never said, yes, I hit Miss Woods. Yes, I saw. He didn't say that. Trooper Luther said, yeah, well, okay, after you hit Miss Woods. And there was a pause because he never said that. Because he never knew what he hit. Now let's talk about what he's being charged with. He's being charged with leaving the scene of an accident and not providing aid. Okay? So let's talk about the report. Let's talk about what was in the report. Okay. If he was driving down 52 and he'd seen Miss Woods, based on what the troopers have testified to, based on what's in the report, there's something they do called pre-collision skid marks. The reason why they do that, and I want to go, before I even get into it, I want to preface it by saying this. Members of the jury, there's a reason why all these reports are done. I love when we come into the courtroom because the state spends all this time bringing experts in, bringing reports before you, putting the reports out, telling you that these guys have gone to this school, they've been educated on this, and then we put the reports out to you, and then all of a sudden it becomes, wait a minute, wait. Now, we don't want to talk about that. But let's talk about the pre-collision skids. Because what Trooper Luther said, or Trooper Lovett, the pre-collision skid marks show if the person who was traveling down the road, they indicate that if they saw something, most people would slam on the brakes and they would swerve. And that would indicate by the skid marks in the road that they saw it. I asked Trooper Lovett, and I believe I asked Trooper Luther, based on your report, it did not show that there were any pre-collision skid marks. And there were 4 categories. There was a right front, left front. They each said no, Trooper Lovett especially. Why is that important? Because that goes with Mr. Richardson's story. If he didn't see her, and all of a sudden, bam, somebody hits his car, there was no time for him to adjust and hit his brakes, therefore there's no skid marks. So when we start breaking down what Mr. Richardson said and what he didn't say, then let's just look at the facts. Let's look at the report. The report says no skid marks. Skid marks indicate someone would brake. He said, I was driving on the road, something collided with my car. The report goes along with that. Then there's another part of the report, which is the report that the South Carolina Highway Patrol does, which is a report that was done by the May team, which is part of the South Carolina Highway Patrol who testified. So if they went through all this trouble to put all this information in front of you, it's got to be important. So let's talk about post-collision skid marks. There's no post-collision skid marks. There was nothing in the report that indicated that at the moment he was traveling down the road, that he saw anything, that he noticed anything, because his car never veered. That goes with his story that I didn't see anything. Something collided with my car. So now let's talk about post-accident, because that's really what we get into here, is what did Mr. Richardson know at that point in time? Now, context in every situation matters. Perspective in every situation matters. What I see standing in front of you may not be what the court reporter or the judge sees standing behind me. But what I see is what I see. So we have the video. The video shows exactly what he said, is that he turned around. Now at first, yes, he said, I didn't back up. He said, I backed up. Okay, yes. He flip-flopped on that. But everything else he said was correct. He didn't see anybody. He drove. Skid marks indicate that. The video shows that he turned around. He said he turned around to go look. If Mr. Richardson was a evil, sinister man who's just joyriding down Highway 52, running into people, why would he turn around? He turned around because he's a person and something collided with his car and he wanted to turn around and see what it was. He did his investigation. He looked, he didn't see anything, it was dark. So let's talk about common sense. You all answered the call. You're all from the Waynesboro County, King Street area. You're on Highway 52. It's 12 o'clock at night. It's dark. Something collides with your car. We don't live in New York City. You live in a rural community. It could have been a deer. It could have been a dog. You don't know what it is, and you're stuck out there in the middle of the highway. Are you doing a 30-minute walkthrough? Are you basically stopping to see if you see anything? Remember, there's no blood on any of the debris out on the road. There's no blood on the car. Ask the troopers that. You don't see any blood. You don't see any blood on your car. You look around, you don't see anything. It's dark. You're on the way to pick up your friend. He turned around and he went to where he was going. Now, let's look at this. That's October 2018. Now, in February of 2019, October, November, December, January, February of 2019, you haven't talked to anybody, any law enforcement officer, no one's come to talk to you about this. All of a sudden, 5 months later, someone pulls up in front of you, and they don't really tell you why they're there. They say, oh yeah, we're investigating something. We want to talk to you. It wasn't October 4th or 5th when Trooper Luther went to go talk to Mr. Richardson. It was in February. So us being people, 5 months later, he hadn't heard anything about it. Trooper comes to talk to him. Of course, he's not going to be Johnny on the spot with his recall. But the one thing he did do is he always said, I did not see it. I didn't know what happened. She came out of nowhere. He said she came out of nowhere because during the whole interview, when you heard it, the trooper kept saying, Miss Woods, Miss Woods, Miss Woods. So he said, yes, we're talking about Miss Woods, so I didn't see her. It wasn't an admission that, yes, I knew I hit it. He just said what the trooper said. He kept saying Miss Woods. He said, I didn't know where she came from. He's in there talking to the trooper. The troopers told him what's happened when he's investigated. At that point, yeah, he said she. Who else were they talking about? They're referring to them. It wasn't a, yes, I know I hit her. It was, okay, I didn't know where she came from because we're in here talking about she. Now, we go into testimony of everyone involved. We had Trooper Lovett, we had Trooper Luther, we had the doctor who performed the autopsy, and the doctor who provided his report. And the doctor testified to everything that was in the report. I'll let you decide what's relevant and not relevant from the doctor's report. You had Mr. Horton, who was a person from Winsboro County volunteer firefighter. He got on the scene, he walked around, he looked at the debris. I asked him, and I'm just recounting, is that stretch of highway known to be dangerous? He said, yes, it was. These aren't people coming from Columbia or Florence or Charleston telling you that Highway 52 is dangerous. These are people that live in our community telling you, yeah, I know that road is dangerous. It's not a report coming out of Atlanta saying Highway 52 is dangerous. These are people in our community who are saying this road is dangerous. Because it's dangerous, you're not looking for people to be crossing the road because it's a highway. So when Mr. Richards is driving around or driving down the road at the proper speed limit, as Trooper Love said, why would he be expecting for somebody at 12 o'clock at night to pop up? What would be more reasonable, members of the jury, at 12 o'clock at night, driving down Highway 52 in October in our area? What would be more reasonable? That you think you would hit a deer, or do you think it would be somebody out there in the middle of the night on the road? I know what I think is more reasonable. I don't believe that people are bad. I don't believe people go around just mowing into people. But I've traveled that stretch of road myself. Every morning, usually when I go to Lake City, I see a dead deer on the side of the road on 52. So what do you think is more logical? That Mr. Richardson was driving around, saw this lady, hit her, turned around and just left her in the road to die? Or is it more reasonable that he honestly did not know that he was involved in a hit and run accident? He did not know he was involved in it. He did not know the person or the thing that collided with his car was a person. State has proved that beyond all reasonable doubt. Beyond all reasonable doubt. There can be in doubt, is doubt a reasonable doubt per se, is doubt that would make a normal person hesitate. Because Mr. Richardson is presumed innocent. And when we talk about reasonable doubt, well, we just look at the report. That's reasonable doubt because we already know he didn't see her. Because the report indicates that he didn't see anybody, and the trooper in the interview said maybe he didn't see her. So that's doubt right there. The video that we showed, or that was shown to you, you saw the video. Did you see anything out there? Or did it not look very, very dark? Is there any reasonable doubt to believe that Mr. Richardson is a normal citizen of this area? He was driving on the road, something collided with his car, he turned around, he looked, it's the middle of the night, he got a little scared. I get scared in the middle of the night on Highway 52. 12 o'clock at night, 18-wheelers coming through, rushing through. Now, in a moment, I want to sit down, and Mr. Anderson is going to get back up in front of you, and then the judge is going to talk to you. And the judge is going to instruct you on the law. He's going to tell you exactly what you have to find or not find in order to release Mr. Richardson. He's going to charge you. And whatever Judge Newman tells you about the law, that is the law. There's no parceling it, there's no finagling it. It is the law of South Carolina, and you follow that to the T. But when you're in your deliberations, remember what I said, bring in your common sense and your experiences. You heard all the testimony. You heard all the witnesses. You heard what they said.
Christian News TY would like to thank you for watching. Please share.